Are you tired of being outnumbered, going into boss encounters and never being able to get them completed? Or maybe they're just taking way too long? Would you like to go from that to this, liberating in seconds, going into those boss encounters and just watching the health bar melt away? Not to worry. Today, I'm going to show you the abilities you need and how to get them to take your gameplay to another level. Let's get started. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to keep it as short as possible and cut it down as much as we can. There'll also be chapters, so you can skip to exactly what you need. That way you can continue your journey as quick as possible. Before we can get to the section of the Abyss that we need to, we first need to defeat Priscus the Ancient. Now he's located in Payloon at the Spire of Ringing Truth. If you don't know where that is, or you haven't been able to defeat him yet, please check out the video in the link below and we'll get you up to speed. So after he's defeated, you're going to leave the arena and enter into the next room where you'll see the portal that'll take us to the Abyss. Go ahead and enter through that portal and we'll get started on this journey. This is going to take us to a location called Aether's Rest. Now, the reason we're here is because we need to complete Abyss challenges that are going to open up abilities that are going to take our gameplay to another level. These abilities are called elemental skills, which we can integrate into our combat to imbue them with our weapons, gain massive power with AoE damage, and several other factors. We're going to be working to unlock 2 of these elemental skills, the first of which is called Frost Mantle, second of which is called Flame Strike. Throughout this process, when we get these unlocked, we will also unlock the ability to imbue them with our weapons. Now, you saw an example of how powerful that can be in the beginning of this video, but don't worry, once we get these skills, I'll show you how to unlock them and the basics of what they can do at the end of this video. But first, we need to complete several Abyss challenges before we can even get to that point, so let's get started. To start this first challenge, Aether Rest, we need to utilize these fans to float our way up into the main section. Now you need to take this slow because you can fall relatively easy, and it's not a problem if you do. You'll just have to go all the way down to the mainland and then fast travel back to the Abyss Nexus we just unlocked. But it can drastically increase the amount of time it takes to get this completed. So if you look off to the right, we're going to be trying to get into that main section right there. If we wait and be patient, we'll notice here shortly that there's an opening that we can float into. So let's just take our time and make sure we get in there the first time. And as you can tell, we missed it. So we're going to have to wait till the next opening because we don't want to risk falling and having to start back over. Now, if you don't want to wait till the next opening comes around, you can attempt to chase it down, as there are fans located completely around this center object. And if you do notice, whenever you go into these fans, they do initially launch you up higher, but if you stay in them too long, you will gradually lower and may not have enough boost to make it into that opening. So you really need to pay attention to what you're doing and exactly where that opening is. Now, as you can tell, again, we missed it because we were messing around. Because of that, we're going to have to make our way back and try and get into the next one. Now, generally, you're going to want to be in these fans that are slightly higher. So we're going to try and use this bigger platform here as it seems to be the highest to give us that extra boost to make sure that we can make it. Now, if you're stuck in one of these fans and you're not able to get a boost to get you high enough to the next one or into the center platform, you can gradually float outside of the path and glide back in, and it should give you that initial boost again to help you get there. So as you notice, once we made it to the bigger, taller platform, it gave us enough boost to push us into the center area. Now that we made it into the center area, we need to look at what we need to do next. As you notice, when we run around, there's really nothing that shows up that we have to interact with or tell us really what we need to do next. So we're going to look around at the lower level here and see if there's anything that we can locate, which it doesn't appear like there is. So let's continue on and maybe look a little higher up towards the roof, and we'll see if there's something there. You know, the best thing you could do is follow these cables as they seem to point us in the right direction, which if you notice they did this time as well. we have that circular object we can latch onto with our Axiom ability. And now that we're attached, we can start to move this center object left or right and see where it gets us. So as we start to turn this back towards us, if you notice, we do get an opening that we can now enter through. So now that that's open, let's make our way in and see where this takes us to next. We have another fan that we need to use to get us up to the next level. So let's glide up and see what's next. Initially, when you get to this next room, it doesn't really appear like there's anything to indicate what you need to do or tell you what to do next. As you notice, all the walls appear almost exactly the same outside of that one with the circular hole. But when we walk around, we get really no prompt as to what we need to do. Since everything looks the same outside of that wall with the circular hole, if you go over to it, you will be prompted to utilize your nature's grasp, and that will actually lift the wall to another level. Why it didn't prompt on the first time, I'm not sure, but maybe it's just the way that we were angled towards it. But if you look behind this, there's actually nothing. So that doesn't help out a whole lot, but that circular hole actually has one of those objects that you can connect to with your axiom force in order to rotate this around. So as you can see it glowing up there, we're going to circle around to where we can get to a good point to connect, utilize our axiom force, and then we're going to use this to actually spin the room the same way as we did below. Now, if you notice, as we rotate this, we will actually get another opening. This way we can exit here and continue on with the next path. As we exit this room, you're going to notice that there's a fan indicating that we need to continue our journey upward. As we get on this fan and glide upward, there's going to be a series of other fans that we need to utilize to get to the top platform. You may fall, that's fine. Go ahead and do it again, but do your best just to make your way up. And there's really no right or wrong way, just make sure you get to the top. Now, as you notice, there is one of those electrical cores down there. We actually missed that, but we will need to at some point go pick that back up, as we'll need to place it on that platform that's directly behind us. So as you notice, we're not really able to pick it up from here because it's going to be too far. So we'll need to go back down and get it or get it on our way up. But there is a second one inside of this room that is already on the platform. So for the sake of time, we're going to go pick it up and set it on the platform and continue on. So once both of these cores are on the correct platforms, it will unlock the room above where you can traverse up these cables and make it into the next area. As we get to the top, you're going to notice there's yet another fan. We're going to need to jump into the path of this fan and glide across to the final section of this challenge. Once you're in the path, it'll push you to this other platform. And as you can see, those spires there are the end of this challenge. When we walk up, you see this core that is glowing and it appears to be intact. If you go ahead and check it, you will notice that it actually is fully intact and there's nothing that you need to interact with this. So when you run up to the spires, if you notice, we don't get any sort of indication that we've completed anything. It's because we are missing something here. And it's not really obvious at the forefront what you need to do. So coming back and looking at this core that was already intact, if you go around and mess with it, try and pull it out, it's really not going to do anything. And the reason being is because that's not the portion of this that we need to interact with. If you notice when we were getting blown across to this platform, there's this object right here at the bottom that we need to actually force push into place. When you go to force push this into place, you're going to want to hold the button to resist to keep yourself from getting blown backwards, as you have the chance to fall off and have to start over from the Abyss Nexus whenever you get to the ground. If you notice, I did not do that, but if you glide, you can still catch yourself and not fall down and climb back up to get to where we need to go. Once that's been pushed into place, you're going to notice that this spire now lights up. That's going to indicate that we've completed this challenge successfully. This challenge is going to supply us with an Abyss artifact, and that's really it. But we need artifacts, so we can't complain because we did get something. Ultimately, though, it's important that we complete this because this is going to put us into the next challenge, which is getting us closer towards the skills that we're actually after. Once you complete each one of these challenges, you're going to need to go behind these spires, and there will be another path that will take you up to a portal. So as we walk around back here, you're going to notice that this path takes you to a triangular section that looks like the portal I was explaining. Once you get through here, it doesn't take you anywhere, but it does raise up a platform that you can interact with in order to open up the next section. As you can see, when you walk up to it, there's no way to interact. So we need to use our Axiom ability to clinch onto this and rotate it just like we did all of the other objects in the previous section. Once you complete this, it will fully lock into place and open up the next challenge. Once the animation completes, we're going to want to make our way across and get to the next challenge. Now just be careful when you're doing this because you don't want to fall, as we don't open up the next Abyss Nexus until we get to that challenge. And it's not too big of a deal. I mean, you could start this one over if you do fall. You just have to traverse all of this again to make it to this portion. Once we get here, we're going to want to jump on this platform and use this fan to push us across. You should be able to use force push to get this done. I'm actually going to use nature's snare, as this will continually rotate the fan until we get to the other side. Once we get over here, you'll notice this portal. This is what we need to get to transport us to the next challenge. This next challenge that we're going to be working towards is Frostbitten Paradise. Once you get here, you're going to want to make your way across these platforms to the main entrance of this section. As you traverse your way across, make sure that when you get here, you do step on the Abyss Nexus, just in case you run into some issue or you fall or you need to return later, that you have this activated so it's easy access and you don't have to start at the previous one. Once this is locked into place, we need to figure out how to open up the blocked area in front of us. And if you notice, we have this block here with the glowing beam. So we're going to pick this up and we're going to take it over to this platform and put it to where it points directly at that yellow circle. Just an FYI, when you put these down, that doesn't really give you any direction as to where it's going to point. So if you don't get it the first time, just continue to work with it until you get it to the right direction. Once that's in place, this will unlock this barrier and we can traverse inside of here. Again, this is another section that really doesn't give you any indication as to what you're supposed to do. So we're going to walk around and check it out. So as we make it up here, you're going to notice another one of those circular platforms and the pillars showing the end of this challenge, but there's nothing in between that tells us where to go. Like I said previously, one of the best things that you can do is follow these little stone looking cables because they generally seem to point you in the right direction. So if you notice that these ones, there's nothing here that really indicates what we can do, but these other ones are going into a glowing platform. If we use our axiom grapple, it doesn't really do anything, right? Because we can't take this out. But if we stand on it, if you notice, it opens this floor below. Once you get down here, it's a little more understanding what you have to do, right? You have a floating battery or a power cell. We're going to take that and we're going to put it into the opening on the wall. Now, I accidentally dropped it on top, so we're going to fast forward and get it back and get it in here. Once it's in place, just force push it in. Once that's complete, we're going to notice that the platform to our left now begins to move. We can go that way, but it's not going to do a whole lot for us. So we have another one of these blocks with the beams. What we need to do is take it and put it in place on this side, which will open up where we need to go next. So once we get this put down appropriately, if you notice the wall behind us is still intact, so we can't enter that way. Also, stay out of the way of those beams. They're not going to kill you, but it's really annoying. The only way that we can really traverse at this point is across to this platform. So because I'm lazy, we're going to glide over and not wait. But if you notice to the right over here, we actually have a new opening. We're going to go back just a little bit and go into this opening, and this will be the next section that we need to get to. We're going to need to use this power cell, but not necessarily at this point in time. So if you put it here, you notice it doesn't really do anything. Obviously, we have one of these boxes with the lasers. We need to put that in place just like we did the previous ones. This cell actually needs to go on top of this platform. And if you notice when we put it there, the floor here begins to move. But it really doesn't do anything to benefit opening this wall at this point. The reason that we need to get through that wall, if you notice, we need 2 of those blocks with the lasers in order to point towards both of these yellow cells and turn them blue. At this point, we're going to work this one piece at a time and first get this initial block on the platform pointed towards one of these so that way we get them initiated. If we go back, we're going to notice this again does almost absolutely nothing for us. And this is where this puzzle gets slightly confusing because it doesn't really indicate what you need to do. All we know is that we need 2 blocks against those. We have another yellow cell right here. We need to figure out how to get that opened up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this block and attempt to get maybe this other cell and see if that does anything. We could try and put it here, and this will technically work if you can get it in the right spot. But it may take a lot more time than it would to just do this the appropriate way. So what we need to do is actually put this block on that platform and utilize this core to move the floor over to that other yellow cell. And in order to get the floor to move back, it doesn't really matter what you do with the cell on the platform. You really need to just take it off. And again, pay attention to the direction of the laser. But once we get that cell pulled off, we're going to take this block and we're going to put it on this floor. Put the cell back on, and that will take this block over to that yellow cell that we need to initiate. Again, this is not perfect, but Doesn't really matter on this one because once it gets to the end, as long as it's pointing in that direction, it'll correct itself and hit the cell like it's supposed to. So we're going to put this power cell back on and it will move the floor to the appropriate location. Now, as you see, this block will hit, initiate this, turn it blue. At that point in time, the wall now opens up and we can pick up the second one. We're going to take this in, and before we do anything, we need to place it on one of the platforms to initiate one of these others. It doesn't really matter the order in which you do this as long as you just get them in place. Like I said, this is not perfect. It's really kind of a pain, but just do your best. Once that one's in, we're going to move this power cell off and get our other block back. Why this is pointing this direction, I don't really know how it turned around, but pick it up and let's go ahead and put this on the other platform. This will open up the wall here so we can go into this next room. At this point, you see there's another yellow cell and a battery over here to the right. We're going to need to take that battery into the next room. So the best way to do so is just put it right at the edge of this barrier and get this cell activated. The best way that I've found to do this is to actually use your sword glint or whatever you want to call it and turn this blue. Once it's fully initiated, we need to pick up this battery and walk through this area. Now, if you notice, we had just enough time to pick it up and make it through the barrier before everything went back to blocked. So put the battery through this hole if you have to. Let go of it, crouch down and get through yourself. Go to pick this battery back up. Don't, try and do a little better than I did and don't struggle so bad. But we're going to put it into that open area where the light is shining. As you could tell, I really struggled with this time. That's okay. Just whatever you got to do, get it to where it needs to go. Now that we have it decently positioned where it needs to be, we're going to go force push it into place. Just jump up and do your force push down and you're good to go. Once that's in place, you will notice a teleporter gets generated. When you take this, it's going to put you on the first floor where we initially started this challenge. At this point, we are pretty much done. The only thing left to do is go to that circular object like before, force push it into place, and that will complete this challenge. When you go to force push this one, you will need to be crouched in order to force push downward. Or I guess you could attempt to do the jump force push and maybe that will work as well. But once that's done, you'll notice that the pillars now light up and this challenge has been completed. Once the animation finishes, you'll notice for this one, we will only be getting an Abyss artifact as well. Again, we need them. At least we get something. Once we're done, just like the previous one, we need to work our way around to the back and make it up to the portal to bring up that pillar that we can initiate the next section. And you can get up these several ways. You can take the path that it gives you. If you want, you could do your triple force push up and just glide across like I'm about to show you here. Whatever you want to do, just do your best to be careful so you don't fall because you really don't want to have to go start this over again. It's not that big of a deal. Like I said, it just adds additional time. Once we get through here and that pillar comes out, we're going to do the same thing as we did before and use our Axiom grapple to twist this around and it bring up the next section. Once that animation completes, you're going to notice that these fans turn on. It doesn't really matter which one of these you use, but we need to use them to get across that big platform right there in front of us. And if you notice, there's really no other option other than that one. So it would be hard to go the wrong direction. But that's going to be our best thing. So just pick one of these, jump up, glide over, and let's get across. Once we're here, you're going to notice that none of these are actual Abyss Nexuses, so don't waste your time with them. But we're going to need to use these fans to continue our way forward. Once you're here, you're going to glide up into this path. This fan will blow you across to the next area. And don't worry about this. You can't overshoot it, luckily, because they put a wall in place to stop you, so that does help. All right, now once you're here, again, move your way into the path of these fans and go upward. Make your way into this one, which will shoot you across. Like I said, none of those are Abyss Nexuses, so don't worry about them. And we have these two, which are going to shoot us back up. And I know this is tedious and repetitive, but it's what we need to do. Once you're here, you need to look over this direction and glide your way all the way to the end. Just be careful not to shoot it too short. You really shouldn't be able to, but do your best to get as high as you can on those big fans before you make your way over here. Once you're here, land and get into this teleporter. This will take us to the next challenge. I know this has been a long journey so far, so thank you for sticking through, but trust me, the rewards are definitely going to be worth it in the long run. I would like to make a note at this point that if you haven't got the Frost Cursed armor set, you may want to look into getting it because it will make this a lot easier as you won't have to deal with frost. If you don't have it, I have a link in the description below to a video that will help you get that, along with 2 other armor sets and several powerful weapons. So on this one, there's several ways to get across. You can make your way to that platform below right there and climb your way up, or you can do your force jump and get your way over here by gliding. If you're not using the Frost Curse armor set, you're going to want to light those lanterns right there to keep yourself warm. But if you are, you can just continue onward. Now we're going to cut this down and make this as short as possible. So when you run through, you're going to want to go directly to the left up this icy path. Once you exit, you're going to notice this battery on the wall to the right. We're going to need to use our Axiom grapple to remove this. Once removed, we're going to need to make our way up the mountain to the right. There's 2 ways you could do this. You could climb to the top, or you could jump up here, use your force push, and glide to the top. We're going to do that because it's faster. Once you're up here, if you look behind us, we're going to have that power core that we need to place on top. Once we get it into place, we're not actually going to be able to socket this in until we warm it up. So if you have a fire ability, flame arrows, whatever you want to use, we need to set this on fire before we can actually socket it in place. I'm going to use this way, and I'm just going to go get my arrow and shoot it at it until it catches on fire. Once it's on fire, be careful. Don't jump on top because it's going to cause a lot of damage with fire, and it's just really annoying. You're going to walk up next to it, jump up, and force push it into place. So let's reseat this where it should be. We're going to jump up and force push it into place. Once that's in, we've finished this section and we need to move on to the next. To do so, again, we need to climb up to that circular object and force push it into place. Now for this one, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you hold on because again, there's a huge chance that you could essentially fall and have to start back over. This is a little harder to get to because it's really difficult to climb up these icy slopes. So once you're here, hang on and resist, which of course I did not. And if you don't, that's okay. Just glide across like I did and grab onto the cliff and you should be good. If you notice, once this animation starts, we have got our first elemental skill called Frost Mantle. Now that we made it this far, we have one. We only have a couple more trials to go until we get the next. So what we're going to do since we completed this is make our way back up. Like I said, you can climb, and if that doesn't work, go ahead and use your force jump to make it to the top. Ultimately, that's what I ended up doing because if you can tell, I have nothing to grab onto, and everything I do, I end up slipping off. So let's get to the top and make our way to the next trial. And once we're up here, it's going to be the same as before. We just need to make our way behind, go through this little portal. We'll have the pillar come up, use our axiom grapple, and we'll get the next section loaded up. The journey from this challenge to the next is rather long. It's pretty straightforward. You just follow the platforms, ride the moving ones where necessary. But for the sake of time, we're going to skip forward to the end. All right, we made it to the end. Once you get here, you're going to notice another teleporter. We're going to enter this, and this will take us to the next challenge. We've now made it to the Sanctorum of Darkness challenge, so we're going to make our way up to the Abyss Nexus so we have our safe point. I did run into a slight issue trying to get through this one, where at this point I ran into an invisible wall that I wasn't able to really get through. Let me know if you had this issue as well in the comments below, but essentially what I ended up doing is when I jumped, I slid down that slope just a little bit and it broke through the wall and allowed me to make it to that platform. I know riding these platforms is rather slow and boring, but don't worry about it because this next challenge is going to go through pretty quickly because we're going to use something that we used in a previous one that's going to speed this up quite a bit. Now, don't do what I did here. I got a little overzealous and I jumped up trying to get through, didn't make it, and I actually got stuck underneath this platform until it moved. So now that's out of the way, we can make it up top. Let's get started. So if you notice on the right here, we have this object with a laser coming out of it. We're going to need to mount and put that laser in place to initiate the core. Now that we have that in place, you notice it didn't do anything. Also, this one over here to the left does not have a laser coming out of it. So it's going to be really difficult for us to initiate that core on the other side. We're going to go ahead and attach just so I can show you that there's actually nothing that you can do here. Instead of trying to figure out how to get this turned on and powered up, we're going to use what we used in the previous challenge to go ahead and get that beam initiated. So we're going to walk to the front of the one that is not working, and we're going to use our sword glint, or like I said, whatever you want to call it, to essentially power up that core on the other side. Now, this is going to take quite a bit of time, so you're going to want to make sure that you hold it until all of these fans in front of you start moving. I know that they're moving, but you want to hold this until the animation starts to make sure that you get it completed. Once the animation is finished, you're going to want to make your way through the middle of these to the other side. You're going to want to do it relatively quick because you only have a short time span doing it this way to make it through. Now, once you're here, you're going to want to mount to this, resist, and force push it into place. As you notice, we actually ran out of time on this one, so we're going to have to go do this again. Luckily, if you don't want to have to deal with doing it from the other side, you can come over here and do it from here. It is a little bit harder because this moves in as you do this, so you need to make sure that you track it appropriately so that way you don't lose contact. Same as before, you'll know you're done once the animation starts. Once complete, go ahead and mount to this and force push it in. You don't really have to worry about resisting on this one since you don't have anywhere to fall, but if you want to, go ahead. Once that's done, you're going to want to use your force jump to get to the top. And when you're there, you're going to notice that the spire has lit up and you've completed this challenge. Again, just like before, we're going to want to make a way to the back and continue on to the next one. Just like all the other paths between these challenges, we're just going to make our way through. So for the sake of time, we are going to fast forward this until we get to the end. Now that we're at the end, we're going to see another portal that's going to take us to the next challenge. We only have two more of these to go. I know they take a while, but like I said, the rewards are definitely going to be worth it in the long run. All right, now we're going to be starting the loop of life. This one is somewhat annoying. It's kind of long. It's hard to get to certain places. You got to bring a lot of stuff back and forth, but don't worry, we're going to walk through this whole process. So the first thing you're going to do is come to this edge and you're going to jump down onto this loop. You're going to see that power cord that we need to socket into place. So let's go ahead and grab that and socket that in first. All right, once that's in, we're going to need to make our way all the way around to the other side. As you notice, once that was socketed in, this platform we're on started moving. So we need to be cautious with that while we're going through this because it could make this journey just a little bit longer. But what we're going to do is run over here and we're actually going to force jump up onto that platform to the right. But before we do so, we need to get this other power core here. So we're going to take this and we're going to drag it over to that platform that was over on the right. So that way it's close enough that we can bring it up there with us. This does kind of suck because we have to go against the way that this is turning. So it's going to take us just a little bit longer, but yeah, it's what we got to do. Once we think we have it in place, let's go ahead and jump up to this platform. Make sure that you have enough space that you're going to make this because you really don't want to have to start this over if you don't have to. Once we're on top, we're going to grab this power core and we're going to socket it in place right here. Once that's in, you notice that we open this up. We're actually going to need to grab this and pull this out because we're going to need to go socket this in somewhere else at this point. So what you're going to do is lift this up to this next platform, close enough that we're able to get it, and then we're going to need to force jump onto that one or climb up this pillar here, and you should be able to jump across like normal. Once we've safely made it here, we need to get that power core and bring it up to the next socket. As you can see, this one's already socketed, so we need to make it to the other side. Now we have gone the wrong direction. This is going to take a lot longer to get there, so we're going to speed this up until we get this socketed. All right, we made it to the other side, so we're going to get this in place and move on. So once that's done, as you notice this platform begins to move, we actually need to grab this one down here that we mounted earlier and take it with us. This is going to be kind of tedious to get, so if you want, you can try to jump down there and pull it out, or you can pull it out from here, whatever works best. This is going to take a minute, so we're going to speed it up, but we're essentially going to jump down there, pull it out, put it back in place so we can jump back and grab it and take it with us. All right, now that we have this in place, we're going to go ahead and grab it and take it with us to the next platform. All right, now that we get close, we're going to put it in place and we're going to jump across to this next one that's not moving. Once we're here, we're going to go ahead and get that power core again so we can bring it back to this side and get this one going. As So you can tell we're too far. Let's move down just a little bit and see if we can reach it. If not, we just have to go back and get closer. Luckily, we were close enough. So let's move around this platform and get this one socketed in as well. All right, we made it around here. So let's go ahead and get this put in place. Now we're ready to go up here and socket this in as well. This one, you're going to have to be a little more careful because if you are not resisting, you don't have a whole lot of room for error if you get pushed off. So just make sure that you're being cautious and holding that button to ensure you don't get pushed back. And if you're like me, I completely missed. So if you notice, we got extremely lucky there. We're able to hang on to that cable and we're going to try and get ourselves back up again. This one is a little harder to grab onto and clearly I'm struggling, but just go ahead and do your jump, glide, whatever you got to do. As you can tell, I missed again. So do your best, but make sure that you are very cautious with how you're trying to get this one done because it's going to be a long, tedious process if you have to turn around and start this all over again. All right, so we finally got that finished after a few mistakes. Let's make our way up. We're going to realize that this pillar is now going to light up, showing that we have officially completed this challenge. Just like before, we're going to make our way around back and initiate the final challenge. This is going to be the last one we need to get our final elemental ability from this, so we will continue on and get this done. We are going to skip forward as we have shown several of these in the beginning. They're pretty straightforward. Just make your way through to the next side and the teleporter, and we'll see you there. All right, so we made it to the other side. Let's go ahead and get in this teleporter, and we're going to get to the last challenge. We have made it to the Tree of Slumber. This one's going to be relatively quick and straightforward, but let's get this Abyss Nessus just in case. Once that's locked in, we're going to make our way outside, and you're going to see a circular object in the middle of multiple pillars. You're going to need to do your force strike into this and lock in your sword to be able to turn this. Once this is locked in, we're going to go ahead and turn it to the left, and you're going to notice that the majority of these pillars go down. Now, if you see they'll light up once they get to a certain level, you're going to want to make sure that you keep that light just above the surface. Once that's done, we're going to jump up to this final one that did not go down, and we're going to force push it till it meets the same level as the others. This is going to take some time. It's not quick doing this, so you're just going to need to kneel down and do it as many times as possible. If you have to, go ahead and get your spirit back up and continue on. If you notice, we didn't have enough spirit to continue force pushing this the rest of the way, so we're going to have to use our focus to regenerate it and continue on. It may be different for you depending how much spirit that you have, but if you run out, this is what you need to do to get this completed. Once you do your final force push, you're going to notice that all these pillars light up. This will initiate the sequence to show the circular object is ready to be socketed in place. So when you're getting this one socketed in place, you're going to need to be careful because if you step in any of this lava, it will kill you and you'll have to start this process all over again. So make sure you're being cautious, make sure that you're resisting when you socket this in, and you should be good to go. As you can see, when we complete this challenge, we get our Flame Strike ability. This is the last ability that we're going to get from this, but you can continue onward to the other challenges if you'd like to get some more artifacts. At this point, we're done and we're ready to start using these elemental abilities as we see fit. Now, if you check your ability wheel, you'll notice that we now have Frost and Flame as options that we can choose from. In your skill tree, we need to get this Imbue element activated because there's several things that we can use here. At each level, you'll have Elemental Meteor Kick, you're going to have Elemental Turning Slash, you'll get Elemental Charge Shot, and Elemental Force Palm. Now, when you unlock level 1, you're going to get Elemental Turning Slash as the first option, which is fine because that's what we showcased in the beginning of this video. So let this animation play, and we'll show what abilities we have and what ones are remaining. So if we go to our skill tree, you're going to see that we have Frost Mantle. So if we change to Frost, we can use that. We have Flame Strike. So if we change to Flame, we can use that. The other two are locked by story progression. The first one's a little ways in. Lightning Surge, you can actually get in middle of chapter 4. So that one will come relatively quickly. Now that we made it to the end, we're going to showcase what each of these abilities can do with your basic Turning Slash. Now you can enhance these with your weapon to do what we did in the beginning of this video. We'll show different builds later on how you can do that. If this helped you out and you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, keep gaming and have fun.